The Haunted Doll. Late one stormy night, Emily found herself wandering through an old antique shop in the heart of the city. The shop was dimly lit, with shelves stacked high with dusty relics from the past. In the far corner, something caught her eye. A porcelain doll sitting eerily still on a wooden shelf. Its pale face was cracked in places, and its glassy blue eyes seemed to follow Emily as she moved. The shopkeeper, an old woman with a weathered face, noticed Emily's interest. "Ah, you've found her," she said quietly. "That's Mary. They say she's cursed, but no one's bought her in years." Emily, intrigued by the doll's delicate beauty and curious about the curse, decided to take it home. As she left the shop, the old woman's warning echoed in her mind. "Be careful what you bring home with you." That night, as Emily placed the doll on her bedside table, strange things began to happen. The once peaceful air in her apartment grew heavy. Shadows seemed to stretch across the walls, and every time Emily looked at the doll, its expression seemed to change ever so slightly. Around midnight, Emily was woken by a faint sound, a soft giggle, almost like a child's. She sat up in bed, her heart pounding. The room was dark, save for the faint glow of the moon through the window. She turned to the doll, only to find it no longer on the table. Instead, it sat at the foot of her bed, staring directly at her. Frozen in fear, Emily watched as the doll's head slowly tilted to the side. Its mouth, once painted shut, was now slightly open, revealing tiny porcelain teeth. Another giggle filled the room, this time louder and more menacing. Emily jumped out of bed, grabbing the doll and throwing it into the hallway. Breathing heavily, she tried to convince herself it was just her imagination, but the giggling continued, echoing through the walls. Then the sound of tiny footsteps began to approach her door. The door creaked open, and there stood the doll, its once lifeless eyes now glowing with a sinister light. In a voice far too deep for something so small, it whispered, "You can't get rid of me, Emily." Terrified, Emily ran out of the apartment and never returned. The next morning, her neighbors found the apartment empty, but on the bed, sitting perfectly still, was the doll, its glassy blue eyes staring at the door, waiting for its next owner. And so the cursed doll waited.